What's up? I know I'm crazy, audience. This is another episode of I Know I'm Crazy with Naja. Oh, it's Podcast Tuesday, and today we are talking about peaceful co-parenting, something we don't really talk a lot about here. So I got my boy Kevin Meeks, or Kevin Meeks, as I call him. You know, it's country. We don't say the V in Kevin. We be like Kevin. Do they do you like that, Kevin?
They do.
So have you ever wondered what if you had a drama-free co-parenting lifestyle? Well, Kevin Meeks is the co-parenting coach, and he helps co-parents find more effective ways to communicate with their co-parenting partner. Right after this dance break, y'all, Kevin is going to come and tell us about all these codes and these parentings and this communication that we know nothing about here. So you all hold on. Let me pay some bills real quick, and we'll be right back.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.
Kevin Meeks.
Hey.
How you doing? How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Like I really appreciate this podcast. I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I'm so good today. If it was any better, I would think it was a setup. I literally would. I got that saying from a friend of mine here in Harlem named Dart. Dart always says that, and I thought it was so cool. So Kevin, peaceful co-parenting. Now, we've had your lovely wife on the podcast. As a matter of fact, she's been on both my podcasts and she's explained her situation. But when I think of peaceful co-parenting, I'll say this, and I know I sound like a skeptic. It almost feels like a farce. It feels like it's something that's so unattainable for a lot of us. And when I hear someone talking about it, it seems so far-fetched.
Yeah.
So I want you, when you're speaking to us today, because the people that are here, these are people that probably have no clue how to get from supreme conflict to just being able to have a respect-based relationship. So I kind of want to start talking to them like, is this really real? And then I also want to hear a little bit about your situation, but how do you make it real?
How you make it real is, I'm in counseling, right? And most of the time it's about self. My wife and I, we always say, like, in co-parenting, it's usually one party that didn't want to break up or cannot accept the new family dynamic that you guys have. And really peaceful co-parenting is setting up some type of boundary. Okay. Like I've been co-parenting my entire life since I was 13. Since 13.
Wait, Kevin, you've been co-parenting.
Yes.
So that means in order to co-parent, you have to be a parent.
Yes.
You became a parent at 13 years old.
13 years old. Look, I was a latchkey kid. And what's the saying when the cat is away, the mouse will play. Yes, I was a latchkey kid coming home, and I happened to have a young girl at the time, come to the house. Mama was at work, working 2 jobs. Boom, here I go. Luck of the draw. What's crazy is it was my first time.
Yeah,
it was my first time.
Literally first time. And
yes.
Boom. So you went from being a latchkey kid to a latchkey daddy.
Yes.
What does a 13-year-old boy know about fatherhood,
Nothing.
Parenthood? What is it? Was the young lady, is it safe to assume she was kind of close in age to you?
We are actually a 1 week apart. And what's crazy is it didn't resonate to me. Even when he was born, my son was born, that I was a father. I came home, and if anybody knows this show, it was cartoon. I came home and did the same thing. I came home, ate my Fruit Loops, and was watching the Thundercats. I get a call on the phone, the house phone. They had house phones then, and they said, your son is born. I just hung up the phone like, no, okay. It wasn't real enough for me until I seen him. You talking about 9 months of just being a kid.
You and this young lady, you were neighbors. So that means it was essentially all the parenting duties were going to fall on you guys, is the people that were raising you. So Absolutely. Your family. Were you able to see her during the pregnancy?
So I'm 37, right? I'm an 80s baby, 85.
Yeah.
So
Shout out to 80 babies out there.
Yeah. So in 1999, it wasn't as prevalent to have like kids at that time at a young age. It probably was in some other parts of the world, but in my world, it
Not
wasn't.
where I'm from either.
Right. 13 years old.
Memphis, Tennessee, you get the beat down. I couldn't imagine.
I'm trying to tell you, like, I think this was maybe before Brenda had a baby. No, after Brenda. So anyway.
So Brenda didn't even have her baby. Yeah, Kevin had it. Kevin.
Yes. So we was like unicorns. Like, oh, I can't believe it. So during grammar school and my freshman year of high school, it was just really unnormal, and we was kind of isolated, like figures. You know what I mean? So
they're like, hey, that's Kevin. That's the dude that got a 4-year-old.
Yes.
And so you became that guy. Well, did it make you like a social pariah amongst the people? Like, did the parents not want their daughters to date you because they're like, oh, he has a baby?
No, it kind of made me, and I was just talking to my wife about it. It was one of the worst times of my life. And I know when my son hears stuff like that, he don't like it. But it was one of the worst times of my life because you become like a stage play or stage, like it's a word for it, where you become like the figure example. To the example, like you become that because everybody's, you become like, okay, that's the guy, that's the boy who got the kid.
You don't want to do what he did.
Right.
You become that opposite. People are using you and your experience to kind of teach their kids what not to do.
So I had two dynamics in that time, right? You had the parents that was like, stay away from him because I don't want that to rub off on you. And then you had the other kids that was like, oh, I'm curious on how was that for you, that experience in the negative sense, you got girls that's like, oh, I was thinking about having that encounter. You did. So I want to see. And then you got the other ones was like, you got cooties. My parents say stay away from you. And that was the worst part. Like that overshadowed the, all of the likeness and Kevin, hey,
because you were still very much a baby yourself. Baby. What wet behind the ears, as we say in the country. So then fatherhood, co-parenting started for you legitimately at 13. It's just so hard for me to fathom. What does a 13-year-old co-parent look like? Like, what does that situation look like? Because you got mama, daddy, grandma telling you what to do, buying diapers. You ain't got no job. You don't have money. But then you still have to deal with the emotions. It was your first time. You lost your virginity. First time having sex with this person. And so I'm assuming you guys were not in a relationship. So y'all were just two little kids that bumped uglies and had to figure it out.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we was in a relationship before then, but once the pregnancy came along, I think that in an adolescent mind, you like, if I stay away, it'll go away, but it didn't go away. 9 months later, right? So it was that, and I don't think we had like a connection in that moment. In that light, it was just we experienced something that maybe nobody in the neighborhood was doing, and it just kept going from there. But as a, I can tell you at what happened in that moment where, in that time, yes, you're parenting with the mother, but also with the grandparents too.
Absolutely.
So I did get a job, cutting grass, and then I started working in the nursing home at like 15 down the street. So I was walking diapers and formula and stuff down to her. So I didn't know how to be a father, but I knew I had to do something. And it's still in the eyes of, the opposite parent in the family, it still wasn't enough and still wasn't right. I actually, and not to keep going, but my son got into some trouble, and I was in the presence of the grandmother. And out of all of the stuff that had happened, I looked her in her face and I said, I appreciate you, because it's no way my son would have been able to get to this point in his life without you. I'm never going to say I'm the sole parental guidance of him.
Right.
He's alive and living well because you. And that's the part of co-parenting sometimes in that dynamic that we get messed up, because when you have other parents or you have other people in the system of the child, you count it as if it's just you. So, I got so much, Naja.
I want to hear it all. Keep talking. I'm not interrupting. Keep talking.
So in co-parenting with a baby mom or baby father, and I just got to speak for my dynamic as a baby father or child's father. The mother sometimes harp so hard on the dad. And in my situation, we were both 13. You didn't have anything else. You didn't have anything different than I did besides someone else help cultivate our child together. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to like child support, right? And I know I lived this life where co-parenting, my mom didn't get child support. I know it's needed, but at the same time, if you put your efforts just as much as mine's, the child will have a lot more. Sometimes child support becomes a one-way and transactional. And that's how I was kind of feeling as a young father coming up. Like, I'm just a transaction.
If I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, I'm assuming that you guys didn't do like a 50-50 setup.
No.
50-50 split. So that meant that 90% of this parent, the mother's household's time went to rearing, and 20% or 30% of your 15-year-old income went back into that household. So it's like you get to own more of your time and you get to spend less money, but she gets way less time. Mm-hmm. And I guess looking at it, if we're going to break it down like that, if it's not 50-50, it seems fair. It's like, hey, I'm the one that's spending all my time on this kid. Now, whether Kevin was here or not, then that person still would have to spend that. I do see what you mean by saying, listen, if I'm giving you $500 a month and you're putting your $500 a month, our kid would have $1,000.
Yeah.
But then it comes to that inequity when it comes to spending time, because you have the time to go out and make more money because you're parenting less. Does that?
Right. No, it makes absolute sense. Yeah, absolutely.
I could see why one of the parents would feel that there's like, listen, there's an inequity, so you do need to do more because you're doing less on this end. I mean, that's kind of how we do it in our setup. You know, one parent does the majority of the physical parenting. So the other one is like, you got to pay up.
Yeah.
You got to pay up. Well, so then you were co-parenting with her parents, with her. Was it a thing where you saw that you guys, both of y'all, your parents were they're not going to trust a 13-year-old to raise kids. So they're kind of telling you what to do. Did they become the surrogate parents? It's like, and especially with you and your situation, how was it with you and your family?
So on my side, like I was still having a single parent. So I don't think my mother wasn't as immersed because we was getting so much of the Heisman when it comes to co-parenting with my child's other family.
So her family wasn't really trying to send the baby over there. They were like, listen, this is our baby.
Yeah.
You come sometimes, but we don't need you.
So much so that I didn't have the opportunity of like naming or having a legacy name on the end, that they took full control, but made sure that I was financially a part. And that's the damaging part, when you omit certain responsibilities or you omit certain privileges.
But you're going to pay though.
But exactly.
Listen, you're not going to name this child. He's not going to carry your last name. We're not even really going to let you see him, but you're going to pay. So a 15-year-old can be put on child support. A 13-year-old, I didn't know that. Or does it? Who pays?
No. At that time, no. I wasn't on child support at 15. That was just by choice. But at 17 and a half, I was actually in a courtroom. I was in a courtroom. Yeah, and
so
at
your
that point,
son was about 4.5 years old at that point.
Exactly. And at that point, this is what's crazy, man. At that point, when the judge said I had to be on child support, it was date to file. And if anybody been in the courtroom or in the court proceedings, date to file is from whenever the child support was filed. They go all the way back from that. So if it take a year or 2 years or 3 years to get you in court or get the case pulled up, you owe from all of those years. Date to file or from birth.
So I had to case?
I had to contest from birth because I knew I've been here, and I protest inside of the courtroom. Like, there's no way, Your Honor, that I have not been present this entire 4.5 years.
You were a boy and you were like, listen, I got a job at a nursing home. I didn't have any income. What do they expect a person that's still in high school to pay? What do you have to pay?
They don't show any leniency based off my age, it's about documentation. It's about paperwork, because it's about the best interest of the child. They don't care much about your situation. They'll set a temporary order. At the time of the temporary order was like $25 at the time. at that age, because I didn't have like a job that didn't have like a job. So they set a temporary order. But as soon as I can produce a check stub, now they're going off documentation. It's not about you or your situation. That's why I tell guys all the time, my men, all of those receipts and all of those Toys R Us, if it's still around, and all of the Walmart visits, hey man, you might as well just stuff that and burn it, because like the judge told guys in front of me in court, like, good job. You took care of your child. So
congratulations.
Congratulations.
But you still need to send this check.
Send this check. So you got a whole box of receipts. You might as well just push that to the side, because they don't care about none of that. Show us the moolah.
So, my husband, kind of that date to file situations, it kind of happened to him too. Just a good, a good man. He's going to stand up. He's like, listen, I know you don't have income over there. So until we get some orders from the court, I'm going to send you this much every week. I'm going to pay the mortgage. I'm going to do all this. And then when we get this final hearing, then they'll give us an amount. What ended up happening to him was, he's such a nice dude. Instead of paying the attorney general and setting it all up, he put it directly in the co-parent's account. So what happened, the co-parent was able to say, well, he really didn't pay child support. That was really gifts. So he got hit with $70,000 in arrears and didn't get credit for that $70,000 that he had paid that year they were waiting to finalize that divorce. And yeah, man, $70,000. That's why I tell dudes, I said, you got to be smart. You got to be smart. Like, you don't get credit for it. And like you said, congratulations. But documentation is everything. So what was a custody arrangement? So, so you're in court. I'm assuming you're like, listen, I'm paying this money. Let's do a custody arrangement. Did you do it like that?
So at the time, it was just me. So I didn't have like any counsel at the time. And I wish I did at the time. But it was basically whatever the judge said, whatever she said, because I didn't want to fight. But what's crazy is later on when I was in court with my next son, is that the GAL, if anybody know Gardner Lightenham, she let me know, like, I don't know if you understand this, but you're in a fight, sir. And the gloves are off. You're in a fight. And if you don't want to start fighting, there is going to be a decision made for you. And at that point, light bulb went off, because I'm like, oh man, I see what's going on here. So decisions were being made. And I'm thinking like your husband, like, oh, my heart is pure. I'm coming with pure heart. No, people are coming with the gloves off and they ready to cut for the jugular and everything you got. So, and you have to be prepared with documentation, be able to advocate for self, and that's it. So
let's talk about the emotional toll that one pays, because I know the male ego, the human ego is such a delicate thing. But when we think of fatherhood being one of the most important roles that a man could have, and having something like that attacked, and your son is not named after you, you can't see your child, and you're being minimized, what is the emotional toll? Does it harm the connection that you could have with that potential child, with that particular child?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said you asked the questions that people don't ask. Yes.
I could imagine you looking at this kid like, man, your mother is trying to ruin my life. I'm trying to love you. But then you're coming over here saying the things that she's telling you to say. We can't connect. What did that do to your relationship? And how does a father that's listening to this, what does he do to salvage that connection?
He has to get tunnel vision, but how it affected me is that you spend so much time in the time that you have, whether it's every other weekend, every weekend, or every other week. Like, you spend most of your time like trying to iron out all of the BS that has happened, and the arguments and the feelings, that you don't even spend a whole lot of like uninterrupted time with your child. Now, I know some people going to say like, oh, well, no, I do. No, it's hard, man. It's hard when you're trying to get those visits, put together. You're trying to get through the text messages and all of the disrespect. And it did damage our relationship to the point where I just had to tunnel vision and say, look, he didn't ask for this, but he is in it. And I think that us as fathers and as co-parents, we try to shield our kids from situations that they really should see. They really should see, because this is and I tell my wife this all the time, especially with our daughter, like, this is you're trying to omit parts of their life, that this is their life. So when my son came to me and he said, Dad, how do you feel having a child at 13? And I looked him in his face and I said, don't feel no type of way, but I didn't want you. I didn't want you. He looked back at me and I said, wait a minute. You're not a blessing given too soon. It's not a blessing at all. I'm saying you standing up here, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful to God that you're standing here and that you're my son. But at 13, look at you, son. You 18 years old. Could you have had a duo right now? And if your answer is no, understand my heart. I'm not saying that you, the person, isn't a blessing. I'm just saying you was given to me too soon. To that, I wasted almost 10 years of parenting, dealing with and trying to iron out and trying to stake my claim as a father. So I had to hone in and realize that she's hurting from what you just said earlier about the time she had to spend more than me. So so in her credit, she didn't get to have a childhood either. She was stuck at home with the baby, and I was out doing what I wanted to do and what I needed to do at the same time. But she missed a lot of her life too. She was just as much as 13 as I was. So I can only imagine what ridicule she dealt with.
Oh my goodness.
I can only imagine.
A little Black girl who is a mother, you are automatically told that your life is trash.
Yep.
Your life is going to be a failure. So you may as well just try to be the best mom you can, because you're not going to accomplish anything else.
Right.
Like, that's what they tell these little girls.
Yeah.
I mean, so just a trauma from her experiencing that. Trauma is not an excuse, though, to do harm to your co-parent. Trauma is not an excuse to alienate or demonize your child's father. So when you're looking at your son and you're like, listen, this is my truth. And he was 18 at that point. You could be like, son, what would you have done with a baby when you were 13 years old? Just think about it when you were 13. So now tunnel vision, what does that mean? What does tunnel vision mean for dad?
Does your partner share kids with a loony? Are your stepkids driving you up a wall? Is your partner failing miserably at setting boundaries? Well, VIP Stepmom is where you need to be. We're an exclusive private community just for stepmoms, and we'd love for you to join our tribe. Each month, our members enjoy private conversations, podcasts, expert workshops, a subscription to Stepmom magazine, and monthly live Zoom meetings. If you're ready to join a diverse community that is committed to making sure you live your best life, visit VIP Stepmom today. We'll save a seat for you.
VIP Stepmoms, that's you and me.
So tunnel vision is removing all of the emotions, getting emotionally mature. That I know you looking at a text message before you picked up your child, after you picked up your child, they gave you all of these directives and just saying, I'm here with my son or my daughter, and I'm going to enjoy this time, and I'm going to impart and steal. Tunnel vision is removing, because this is crazy. I got so much information of just backbiting and demeaning and talking down to me in the text messages and voicemails. I got so much of that, and it's hard to remove that even when you have your child. So when I say tunnel vision, it just think about the end goal of, I need to build this, because they go, okay, I say this all the time. Your child is going to have their own story of the way they grew up with you. My mom hates it right now because I say something totally different than what she feels our life was growing up. She'll say, she'll stand in front of a podium on Mother's Day and all of this. And I love my mother. Oh, I was this and I was that. And I sacrificed and this and that. And me and my brother would sit up there.
Girl, wait, I was there too. Wait
a minute. Excuse me, ma'am. Some of that you didn't have to do. Some of those things you didn't have to go through. If you would have just called my dad, if you'd have just did this, if you did not cuss him out, and there's another window. Like us as kids, we watching both ends. We watching dad not come. We watching you make decisions for him. So when you say you sacrifice, no, that was self-inflicted, Mom. That was self-inflicted, Mom. And that's as the kids, when I speak to my mom at 37, she can't stand it. She'll turn her nose up. She'll say, well, you don't know. And I said, I get it, Mom. I get what you went through. But as the child living in the home, I didn't have like an external seat. I was in the home. I see some decisions you didn't have to make. You didn't have to. You didn't have to go through by yourself. Just to have this story that, oh, I was a single Black mother and I did it by myself. Look at my kid.
Image of this self-sacrificial patron saint of. So that means that's a mother's own need to be admired and almost idealized. That feminine ego is something too. I know I talk a lot about the male ego, but honey, us women, an unchecked female ego can cause wars and destroy nations. Yes. And prompt men to cause wars and destroy nations and destroy relationships.
Absolutely.
So Mom, would you say, since you had that vantage point, you're like, dang, you grew up, you're a grown man now, and you're looking at some of the things that your son is communicating to you. So you know, and you have a reference, you're like, wait a minute, my son is going to see a different perspective also.
Yes.
When does that start to happen? Because people, Kevin, I'm going to tell you this, Kevin. People always say, just wait until these kids grow up and they'll see. And for those of us that have kids that are younger, that's not helpful because we're like, listen, I'm drowning today, right now. But listening to you say this, you're like, no, Naja, I grew up. So is it because you're just a very astute, intuitive person that you notice this? Or is this like a general rule that, hey, your kid's going to grow up and see?
So I sat in a duality seat. I grew up in a single parent home where dad wasn't there, child support we needed. My mother was struggling. She was a single parent. So I got to see the inside of what a Black woman goes through, not having a man, being, in relationships, out of relationships. Other men don't want to take on two Black boys as, as their own, seeing that dynamic and seeing how we struggle. We ate noodles, ramen noodles, and, trying to make a pitcher of Kool-Aid with one package. I seen that like, Dad, come on, man, just $200, $100 or something.
Help us, man. We need something.
Something, man. I get it, man. And I get what happens to the Black woman is that disappointment that I put everything into you. And now I'm left with just these two boys or these two girls or whatever it is. And I need a sense of pride. And my sense of pride is I'd rather you be away and then hope that these kids grow up and that I'll get all of the glory. But it's really self-inflicted and I'll get the credit. But you're sabotaging yourself. And I get it. There are some men that just really just choose to not do, or if they're not getting a physical or intimate connection, then they out the door. That's the real brothers. Come on, man. And I hate that, guys. When
a lot of those dudes don't listen to this podcast though. So we don't even have to spend a lot of time on those manipulative jokers. So was Dad able to do something? Did you ever get to reconcile with him and say, hey, why?
Well,
why?
Well, he had his own story. His own story was she wouldn't let me. Well, I was in the house and I had to tell him as an adult, like, no, Dad, you could have. He didn't want to deal with what a lot of guys don't want to deal with. They don't want to deal
drama, cussing.
They don't want to
deal.
They don't want to deal with that.
Kevin, real talk though, if you open your phone and this child that you're entitled to, because the kid wouldn't be here if it wasn't for half of your DNA, and you're opening the phone and someone is telling you what to do with your child, they don't have your name. I even heard cases of women are saying, don't call him daddy, call him Kevin. You know what I mean? And you don't feel a sense of ownership. You're being belittled and almost buoyed about this kid. And then the courts are going to scrutinize every dollar, every penny that you make. You're going to be called a bad father. Then you have to deal with your own emotional stuff. Because let's be real, depression and anxiety runs rampant amongst men, just like it does women. What if you just can't handle being cursed out and being treated like that? And some dudes, there's been some cases, and y'all are going to be so mad at me for saying this, audience. There's been some cases where I've seen men have had it so bad and they had their own individual set of issues. I almost understand why they stepped away from their kids because, and this is not, I know I'm going to get some flack for that. Like, no, that's never an excuse. But what if you're depressed? What if you're manic depressive and this woman saying, kill yourself? Why don't you die? These kids hate you. You emotionally cannot handle that. So did you ever accept Dad's reasons, excuses, whatever you want to call them? Did you ever reach the point of acceptance?
My dad, I reached the point of acceptance, and like that was a decision that you as a man made. And I understand because I sat in those seats of not wanting to deal. And there were points and periods in my younger years where I didn't. I did stay away because it was too much to deal with. It really was. And I mean, you got to think I'm young. So the emotions and the heart was just extremely weak. So I lashed out. I said things I shouldn't have said because I feel like I'm entitled to a level of fatherhood that you're not allowing me to have.
And she's like, you can have it, but I'm not going to make it easy for you. You're going to suffer just like I'm suffering.
Exactly.
But you're like, I didn't make you suffer. Like, this is a decision we both made. So what about now? Where are we today? Son is grown. You have your successful podcast. You and your wife have this platform. You're helping other people. What does the family dynamic look like today?
So to be extremely transparent with you and to your audience, it doesn't stop. And I thought it did. I thought that the co-parenting, and then this was something that I'm going through currently with my oldest son that I had when I was 13. And I told him, I said, man, we get to a place where there is no barriers, there is no gatekeepers. And now you want me to feel what maybe you was feeling as a child in the middle. Because he told me, you always put me in the middle. Well, I don't think he said, right. And because you got to think, Naja, that he's been indoctrinated he's 22 now, indoctrinated for over 22 years of how dad is because it's easier to blame someone else for what the child doesn't have. Let's just say he at home and he asks mom for something. Let's say he at home and he asks mom to take care of a school thing, scholastic or whatever, as he was younger, right? Yeah. And she said, no, see, your dad ain't sent child support. And she's projecting that it's my fault. He's
internalizing all of that. So then there's a lot of blame to undo.
Yes.
Is there something you could have done, like for the dads out there whose children are still coming up and their kids are hearing what your son heard? Looking back, is there something you could have said to kind of cut those thoughts off while it was happening?
I should have been transparent early. So this what happened. Let me be honest with you. I was paying child support for years and my son never knew it. I just thought we was an adult. We was adults, we taking care. And then you were going to be righteous and let them know that, dad paid child support. No, she never told him. So when I would get
him to think that he paid nothing.
So when he wanted something, when he wanted the Jordans, the gym shoes, or he wanted to go to the basketball games after school, he wanted the extra lunch.
You're like, son, I paid child support though.
So when I explained it to him, I said, I paid child support, and I actually showed it to him. He looked at me, was like, what? I said, you're this age and I've been paying all of these years. So he took that information back to his mom. Absolutely, and I got the worst call I could have ever got. Why would you do that? Why would you? And I just simply said over the phone, why didn't you? Why did you let him believe that I was a deadbeat father?
You wanted your child to grow up and be broken for no reason, so that you could be put on a pedestal.
Yes.
So you would have said something earlier. So you wouldn't have had to have that conversation with your son when he was in adulthood. So it would have been less time he could have grown up thinking something wrong. So he wouldn't have had to unlearn. Because unlearning is hard.
It's hard.
It's damn near impossible, right? You see people in therapy trying to unlearn for years. So you would have said, let's just say 12-year-old son. He's 12 at this point. Daddy, I want to go to this basketball trip. Now, Kevin, you're like, dang, I'm young myself. I paid his child support every Friday. So she should have the money for this. At 12 years old, do you tell your son, I pay child support? What should you say? I want to give these people some tangible things that they can take away.
Well, yes, exactly what you said. Tell your children, sit them down and let them know the entire dynamic of what's going on and ask them questions. How do you feel? How is your stepfather treating you? How do you feel about me? Do you think I'm not getting you enough? Do you think we don't talk enough? Hey, listen, I'm paying your mom child support, not in a braggadocious way, but I'm letting you know every little thing. This is their dynamic, guys. They need to know this. I know. And I thought the same way some of you guys thought, like, hey, this is grown folks' business. They don't need to know. No, they need to know. You cannot assume that the opposite parent is letting them know everything that's going on, because a lot of co-parents, and I'm not just going to say women, men, they make it an income and it's a fixed in their income. And it's not like a separate thing. Like, hey, your dad or your
child.
Mom. Right.
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it like, because the lights have to be cut on, the food got to be bought, the heat got to be on.
Right.
So that's a portion, but letting them know like, hey, your dad do pay for this, or your dad do take care of you.
He contributes to
your well-being.
Not just me by myself.
Exactly.
Sit them down and tell them.
Yes.
I don't disagree, because, even in our own situation, I've seen, well, my does this, my mom did it. And it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like your daddy, like my husband's sending at this $3,000-4,000 at this point. And gets emotional credit for none of it, because these children are made and led to believe that this person isn't caring for them. But what does that do to the child's psyche when you're thinking, man, my dad doesn't even care enough to make sure I ate today?
Right.
What does that do? Had you ever tried to reach out to the co-parent? Like, would you recommend the father who knows he's the targeted parent? He knows he's kind of being alienated. Is it in some cases, is it okay to just reach out to your co-parent and be like, listen, we need to talk, because I see what you're doing over there, and it's not helping our kid? Like, at what point do you see that co-parenting is still something that's possible?
Co-parenting is possible. And I think that's a good try. Like, that's a good try to say, hey, let's have a conversation and let's iron out everything about our child or our children and how things are going, how money is.
What's the first question you're supposed to ask? Are you supposed to be like, why are you such a bitch? Or no, not that, but like, why are you so damn mad? God, what's the first question you should ask? Because they're going to want to talk about their feelings. They ain't going to want to talk about the kid, Kevin.
I know. They want to talk about,
feelings. You hurt me. You left me. So this person is probably acting like this because they are not healed from something they blame you for, or the lack of control they feel. Right.
But I don't think it's either party is responsibility to give you some type of closure in that, like, that, hey, and I guess what you're saying is taking ownership for the emotional part. Then we can get to the business of the kids. But I don't think it's my responsibility or anybody's responsibility to give you that closure, because I don't think you're still going to have it. Like, I don't think you're still going to have that. You won't have that.
They're not going to have it. They're not going to have it. But I think just the fact of feeling that acknowledgement, because I think a lot of parents alienate their child from the other parent because they want this child to start to center them. So at least, okay, your dad's not acknowledging me. At least my son can know that I'm his shining star. Oh my God. Whenever I watch the NFL draft, and it's always with these black boys, and it's always the black boys with the mama, ain't no daddy around. And he's like, hey, I love my mama, I give her everything. And dad is sitting back in the audience with his new wife. And I'm thinking that dude probably wanted to be at the Pee Wee football games, or maybe he did, he's there. But I look at this dynamic of toxic motherhood and needing to be centered and needing to feel the most important and acknowledged. But Kevin, you saying I'm not going to give you that because I can't give you that because it's not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything. I mean, I think we should err on the side of having more conversations with the kids so that they can do their deductive reasoning. Like, for instance, when I would tell my son things as a young boy to do, and his mom as a female would counter that just because, and he would come and he would be upset. And I say, hey, listen, anytime that I'm telling you something that contradicts or go against your mom, always choose your mom. Now, I know someone going to say, well, why would you do that? Because I don't have to go back and forth to two homes. He's in the middle. So, and he lives more primarily with his mother. Choose what your mom say, because I don't want you to have an issue. I don't want you to have any strife or any, I don't want you to have to go through that as a child, because I did some of that. I had some of that as a kid. My father telling me this, oh, your mom, I can't believe y'all not doing this yet. I can't believe y'all know. But I live with my mom. So I can't go against her need for me wanting to wash the dishes or call her when I get in the house. Or y'all should.
So basically what you're saying, mom is the primary parent. She's the more important parent.
So if she says something different,
mom is, because it sounds like what you're telling your son, mom is the authority. But I see a lot of dads handing off the authority to the mother just because they don't want to argue. And they know that their child is not in a position to argue with a contrite woman. They're just like, my kid doesn't have the tools. Hell, I don't have the tools to go back and forth with her. So just relent and do it. That sounds oppressive.
So here's the thing, and this is why us as men, we need to sit as overseers and not try to be the dominant figure. I sit as an overseer. So whatever decision that she's making, I know in my mind that if it contradicts what I'm saying, I can fix that logic. Okay. Somewhere, I can fix that logic. Mm-hmm. But I want you to be comfortable at home. I want you to be comfortable with your mom. I want you to be happy when you're with your mom. I don't want you to feel my hurt or my pain with your mom when you're with your mom. So I can fix.
Probably not. So that means you become the sacrificial lamb because you're bending your own comfort when the other parent is doing things that does not really consider their child's comfort. Because you're like, I want you to be cool with mom, but you know she gonna say some silly stuff.
But it becomes like reverse psychology. Now I have a better relationship with my son because now he's telling me, hey, mom told me I should do this, and I didn't really think it was right. What do you think, Dad? Well, what decision did you make? Well, I listened to her, but I didn't like it. Okay, well, let me talk you through it.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, I can fix this because now you thinking that I'm giving you all the authority. No, I sit as an overseer, honey. He gonna come back to me and he's not gonna like some of the decisions you made, but he know dad is his mentor, his friend, and I'm with you, son. Don't worry, me and you gonna always be good. Just whatever
get through this.
We gonna get me and you. We gonna get through this. I see you. I'm with you, son. Don't worry about it. I think us as men, we need to stop with the power struggle. Don't struggle with it, bro. Don't.
Ooh, Kevin Meeks. I could literally go on all day because I have so many questions. You are, in one instance, such a young person yourself, and you have an adult. Your child is now an adult. So you've kind of gone through the whole gamut of what co-parenting looks like. One thing you said a few moments ago, you said it really doesn't get easier. Why does it not get easier? Because I'm thinking, okay, 18 years old, boom, he's shaking your head. Those of you that are not watching us right now, he is shaking his head. No. So is it harder or is it just like a different type of hard?
It's a different type of hard because like you just said earlier, it's the unlearned. So now I'm an adult speaking to another legal adult about his feelings and his emotions about growing up. And I'm trying to dissect and I'm trying to, omit certain things like that was false. That was true. But let me tell you why I did that. Or let me tell you why this happened. And I had to explain the entire dynamic. For me, being 13, I had to give him the scope of foundation. Understand that I know that's your mom and you see her this big, but she's no different than me. We're 1 week apart. We was both 13. Now in other people's situation, it might not be that big, but I laid a foundation of this is what it is. So as an adult, he's kind of unmovable because he's replayed so much negative thoughts about me in his mind because he's indoctrinated. He's hearing the phone conversations with her girlfriends. He's hearing all of the no's when he can't get something and do something. So now I got to unpack as an adult because now he's able to talk and he's able to talk freely.
He can speak freely
now. So now I'm saying it doesn't end because now I have to do what most men say, when he get 18, boy, you're going to have a whole boatload. I don't have as much because I started just a little bit earlier, late, but early in trying to change his mind and trying to get him to think on his own. Just think, son. Does this make any sense? Does it make any sense?
It doesn't make sense, but that's what I grew up thinking. It's just so hard to unlearn.
If I didn't come get you and you upset with me for years that, hey, Dad, I wanted you to come get me that weekend. Does it make sense? Our relationship, would that been my character? What do you think happened in that, son? Think.
Because it sounds like when you're prompting your child to think, though, you're kind of turning on the underbelly, some lies, outright lies that their other parent told them. So now this child has to have this big moment of reckoning. Like, wait, so if Dad telling the truth, that means my mama straight up lied to me. And then that's a whole nother thing that they got to unpack.
Yes.
Damn. But you know what? That's not really your thing, though, because you didn't put it there.
I didn't do it.
Like, I'm about to tell you my truth, son, and I'm going to help you get through some of the things that you had to unlearn. So in the last few moments, though, I do want to talk, I know you have another child, but we spent a lot of time talking about, but I want to talk about remarriage
Oh,
or marriage. And like, we literally only have like 9 more minutes, but I want to talk about, you made somebody a stepmother, and you made someone a stepmother with you having your situations before that were not necessarily all hunky-dory, you know? What's the piece of advice that you would give? And it's such a general question. I hate when people ask me general questions, but what's the piece of advice that you would give to a woman who is, you know, she's meeting a guy like you, he's a dad. It's not necessarily like a cohesive thing. You know, she's going to have to deal with some BS coming into your life.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to this woman when she's brand new, when she's walking into this ready-made family?
Do not, and it's a woman innate ability. Do not try to fix this dynamic of stuff that has happened with this man and his baby mama.
I'm gonna fix it, Kevin. I'm gonna get my broom and I'm gonna be like, "Hey, girl, let's talk. I'm Naja. Listen,
Don't do it. You end up getting hurt in the process. Stay on your side. And I'm not saying stay in your place. I'm saying stay on your side when the child comes.
It's hard, though. When you see your man being disrespected, getting stupid text messages and emails, what would you do as a man? Well, I mean, I know what you've done because we've had your wife on the podcast, but it's difficult. How is a woman supposed to stay centered and focus on her relationship when there's literally someone she's watching disrespect her man?
So
we all want to know.
You know how like a boxer is in the boxing ring and then he goes to his quarters and then his coach or he's rubbing his back and he's giving him water. Yeah. That's you. Okay. Like, I see what you deal with. I see what you dealt with. I'm going to coach you. That's what my wife. I want to beat
her ass too. I want to put the gloves on and beat her ass too.
Because if you do that, then now it becomes a you and her thing. And now the issues of the child and all of the issues of the dynamic get skewed because now you're in it.
Is it possible for a woman to have a good relationship with her stepchild when she has a very bad or broken relationship with that child's mother?
I think it's possible. I think it's absolutely possible, but it's just going to take some, two mature adults though. You really got to be really mature. And in my experience, when you got the other party that really still wants to have a relationship with me as the father,
that's going to be, they're not going to accept any new person.
That
new person's probably going to be treated like they're an imposter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And a lot of women feel like they, the baby mamas feel threatened. Like, oh, I see he didn't date it up or whatever. And I see that she's.
And your wife is fine.
I'm trying to tell you.
Shoot, I wouldn't want her to come behind me. Mm-hmm. I'd be like, nope. Your wife is beautiful. Oh, that's the worst part too. When you marry someone, you got the nerve to marry somebody like that. Oh, goodness. So then how I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. I want to hear all Kevin Meeks got to say.
No, because I did that. I did the whole switch, like, oh babe, you can deal with my baby mama. And then now it becomes disrespect to her. So now I gotta intercede and jump in and say, hey, you ain't gonna disrespect my wife. Yeah. Who is you to disrespect my wife? Well, I don't give a F about this being you, and she ain't his mom and all this other stuff. So now I'm trying to do other damage control that I should have just stayed in my seat. This is my situation, not apart from her, but I'm taking her counsel. The reason why I got custody of my youngest son is because my wife, because she was whispering like, hey, this doesn't get any better, babe. You need to go to court to get custodies. And she sat as a coach and as a consultant to me and removed I'm going to be the intermediate between y'all because y'all can't get along.
Right. She's that's too much responsibility for me. She got kids at all. So she became your counsel, like that person. Like, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa's coach. Like, all right, you can get back in the ring. You can do this. When it comes to becoming a custodial parent, going from being non-custodial, child being in an alienated situation to now them being in your home, is it automatic peace, or was it automatic peace for you, or did you see things get even crazier like this? Because now I feel like the parent can talk crazier to the child. Don't do what your dad says.
Absolutely. It gets crazier because even more so when it comes to my wife disciplining my son, and he takes that back to
her house.
Right here, lives in her house, right? And he should. Like, I can't stand that. Oh, can he discipline? What do you mean? Can she discipline? Of course. That when he takes that back to his mom, now I'm getting fire and brimstone. Why is she putting her hands on my son? Like, what do you mean? She's rearing him.
It's like, listen, and he's a young child.
He's a young
person. And I see it like this. Everybody has their own theories on what discipline should look like. But as long as the people raising the child have define it the same, then it's okay. Like, however, if she defines it in a different way than you, like, let's just say you said, no, we're going to be permissive parents. We're not going to give the kid a love tap when they're sticking their finger in fire. We're just going to say, Billy, don't do that. Then yeah, that's going overboard. But if y'all define it the same and the kid is in your house, like, what does she want to happen? How do you rectify that? Do you tell how do you do that? Because getting custody, you would think it would be easier. Like, all right, cool, I won. Now I'm here.
No, it was a fight. I mean, it was a fight, and a person feel like at some point they can redeem themselves. But no, how do I deal with that? I don't let my child's mother dictate what happens in my home. Like, you're not going to dictate how we move in our home. When it's your time to have our son, then you can make certain rules and concessions in your house. But in my house, I'm building and I'm teaching and I'm helping, cultivate a young man alongside my wife. And that's kind of crazy. Like, what do you think of me? You think I brought someone in that doesn't care about my son or my children and don't want the same thing I want? I married her for a reason.
I don't think it even matters. It's of no consequence what that person, what our co-parent who's told us that they don't think. Sure. It's of no consequence what they think. Kevin Meeks, if these fellas, especially, if y'all don't take anything else from this, Kevin said, you're letting this person dictate what happens in your home when the child is in your home. That right there, that's if y'all didn't hear anything else, any of the literally dozens of jewels this man dropped, if y'all didn't hear anything else, please take that with you. Run your houses. Y'all, this is Kevin Meeks, the co-parenting coach. We could literally Kevin, we're probably going to get many requests for you to come back on and talk to us. You might be our men's advocate. We might have to bring you on as like the men's representative.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for this entire hour of I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall. I will see you Tuesday after next. Thank you so much. I Know I'm Crazy with Naja Hall. Everywhere your favorite podcasts are streamed.
I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. I know I'm crazy. Naja Hall.